Good morning and welcome to Shante's Corner. We are here to uplift, encourage, and support one another. And today I have with me in Shante's Corner Miss Deanah Sargeant. We just thank you that you come onto this podcast today. We thank you for each and every person that is going to receive and be touched by the message that goes forth on today, God. We thank you for the lives that shall be changed by what shall be said on this line today, God. And we give you all the glory and all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. I don't even remember. I know we worked together on the PUA contract, but I don't remember if we like talked a lot. So what you can do is just feel free to kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself and whatever you want to share. And
Okay. Yeah, so we definitely did work on the PUA contract. But it was so busy. Like we didn't talk that much. I would always see you like on Slack. We didn't talk much because it was so busy. Like we would have like 100 calls, 200 calls in the queue at a time. So I didn't really talk to anybody on that contract besides like if it was work related. But yeah, so yeah, my name is Deanah. I am a writer and an artist. I write multiple genres of music. I currently live in Atlanta, so I'm right now focusing on my most recent song that came out on October 31st, which was Frankenstein. So just continuing to grow my brand, create content to hopefully be an entrepreneur and work for myself is the goal ultimately.
where can we find your song at?
It can be found on all streaming platforms. So that's Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. The lyric video for the song was also recently released. So you can find me everywhere at I Am Blind Beauty. No underscore spaces. Yeah, you can find me everywhere, literally.
So do you have like an EP or is this just like your first song you've released? So how did that come about?
So it's not my first song. I released a lot of songs, but month by month I've been releasing a single at a time. So we are looking into preparing an EP, but this is just a single. Every month I'm doing a different single because I hadn't put out music for a while since 2019. So 2023 we kind of like was like, okay, we need to be putting more content out and we've been able to do that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like me because I know with myself, like I think I did my first book in 2018, and I just kind of sat a
Yeah.
while, and it's just like I know for me it was more so just being disobedient and not, really pushing it. But this year has really been a push for myself also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think being creative. When did you start writing? When did you start writing?
Well, I am blind, hence the name Blind Beauty. I lost my sight when I was about 17. So I kind of got into spoken word and poetry first, my senior year of high school. So I kind of started writing poetry. I did spoken word and, both uh, regular and Christian based. So it just depends on my experiences. I did poetry. And then I kind of went into writing when I was in college. So around 20, like around like 19 or 20, 21 years old. So how old am I now? I'm 28. I just turned 28. So I've been writing for some time, but it started as like poetry first, especially after I lost my sight because
Mm,
I needed some kind of outlet. Like I didn't do music or
yeah.
anything until afterwards. So it was definitely, I feel like, a gift that was given to me to cope, to be able to
Hmm.
just deal. So
Yeah, that's very interesting because that's exactly what it is for me. And I remember I wrote my first poem in my 12th grade year. It was called What Makes Me Different because, for me, I've been legally blind all my life and I just was
Hmm.
frustrated. And so
Yeah,
poetry for me was a way to get it out. And so that's when I started writing my senior year.
yeah,
So wow, that's pretty interesting. So I
yeah.
heard into spoken word. So that's something. I went to my first spoken word event last month. A friend,
Okay.
yeah, a friend here named Earl the poet. She put
Mhm.
some on here, and so that's something that I God has been talking to me about. So I actually just wrote and released my first spoken word piece. I wrote it like a couple of weeks ago, and I released it last week called The Harvest. So it's something I'm definitely getting into. So it's interesting that you started out that way. But
Yeah,
for me, like I always, I have having to get out of my comfort zone and not want to be up in front of people.
yeah,
So I could write the poetry, but just getting up and perform it was like the
yeah.
stage fright.
No, definitely. I think that's so true because even now, there's different events. Of course, they want me to perform. People ask me like, "Are you gonna go on tour? Are you gonna do this and that?" And so, I definitely want to find someone, get with someone, just to help me with my movement. Because as a blind person, a lot of times, blind people that are in music, they're usually sitting down at a piano, and I'm not that kind of artist.
Mm,
So, like, I don't play the piano. A lot of
right.
my songs are pop. So I want to be able to engage with the audience, but also be safe and also be
Yeah.
comfortable in my skin. So, it's definitely that time for me to work with someone on my positioning of my body,
Mm-hmm.
movements to make sure I'm engaging, but I'm also aware. So, definitely nervous, but, I think nothing happens before the time. And so, God is not going to open certain doors until because one, he's not going to embarrass you. So
Right.
when you go, you know that you are going to be confident and well equipped and prepared. So every opportunity should be met with preparation. So
Right. Right. And it's more so, especially, with people seeing a different side of somebody who's, blind and visually impaired, because they pretty
yeah,
much have stereotypes. And that's the one thing I can
yeah,
say. But, because I worked a lot. A lot of my confidence came when I met people from the National Federation of the Blind who were doing all kind of stuff.
yeah,
So, and just like, okay, I don't have to be limited by, because like
absolutely.
I said, especially with like singing, they think of people like Ray Charles and, you know, uh,
Right. And it's
Stevie Wonder
people
and
say that all the time. I'm like, you do understand, like when they meet me, and I think because I'm like the first person a person meets, I'm usually the first person, a blind person that somebody meets, and so they're like, oh, okay, so kind of like Stevie Wonder, and I'm like, no,
no.
like Stevie Wonder is a man, and he also didn't do pop music. So I'm like, no, like I'm not.
Right.
He's a genius in his own right with his
Yes.
right ability, but I'm not him. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and I always tell, and I'm even sitting here thinking about it now because most of my friends that I met are in that are blind, have artistic abilities, whether it's writing,
Yes.
singing. I'm like, that's funny. I'm just sitting here thinking about that, but
Yeah.
a lot of creative, something that God showed me, and it's so true. Like a lot of creative experiences come from the trauma that whatever we've been
Yeah.
through, we pull
Yeah.
from that place. So I'm like, it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense when you think of it like that.
Yes. Like a lot of really extraordinary artists, composers, if you sit down and talk to them, they can be a little introverted and they've been
Mm-hmm.
through a lot.
Yep.
So it's very, very true. And so I always tell people that, they ask me, if you had the ability to see again, would you? And I always say, ultimately that's up to God. But the truth is, I probably wouldn't have started music. Like me losing my sight stirred
Mm-hmm.
that gift in me. Like it
Yeah.
to write. So I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have my experiences. So I don't regret anything. I'm not mad about it. I'm not. People always say, "Well, I don't know how you do it." And I said, "Well, this isn't your cross to carry; it's mine." So
Right.
I get it. Like, you may be dealing with something that I don't know how you probably deal with it, but
Right.
you.
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna handle it like you would.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always tell people, and I think of that movie, there's a Lifetime movie that I saw that expresses it the best, where this young lady, she was deaf her whole life, and then
Mhm.
she got her hearing, and she was like, God, take it away. I don't want to
I
hear
remember that movie. I love
this.
that movie. I've seen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I remember that movie because to her, to everybody, oh my God, this is such a miracle. But she's like, this is like
Right.
not hearing is my normal. Like,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Because it's all we know. And like I remember, because like I told you, I've been, legally blind since I was born. So I thought, and like my world changed when I learned that everybody didn't see things the way I did,
Right.
because you just assume, being a kid, and you just assume everybody's the
Right,
same.
right. Yeah,
So it
definitely.
really changes your world when you realize that everybody's not seeing the world how you see it.
Right. And sometimes, sometimes I do want to sing, but only because I'm such an independent person and I don't like asking people for stuff. I really don't. It bothers me. And so in that instance, I think that's probably another reason why God allowed it to happen, is just because
Hmm.
to kind of like, it's okay to ask. I don't. Unless I'm really comfortable with
And
you.
you know that's what he taught me recently, because being legally blind my whole life, I struggle with that, because being a they always want to help people, always want to help you, and so
Yeah.
I was to the point where I refused to accept help, and he had to show me that was a form of pride. So I've had
Yeah.
having to learn how to accept help is hard, because people always wanted to force it upon you. So it's like you
Yeah.
didn't want to ask for help, because you're thinking they just gonna try to take
Yeah.
over.
And
So
I think it's like people really don't understand blindness, or to be honest, a lot of disabilities, because the way they handle disabled people, instead of asking, they'll assume this
mhm.
is what they need. Oh, if somebody sees me walking with my cane, you assume that I need your help. I didn't ask you for help.
Right.
I
Right.
appreciate it, but it just also shows the lack of boundaries that people have. And so they want to help, which is nice, it's coming from
Mhm.
ways, but people have to really learn, like, when you see someone, is it okay for me to help you? Is there something you need help with, instead of just grabbing me? I've had people just grab me, and I'm just like, yo, like, and I'm
Trying
really
to
like,
figure out what's going on.
so it's I've had to learn to be okay with asking. But I will
Mm,
say this too, on the other side of that, because there's a lot of things, especially with content, with creative and creating, I've had forced myself to learn how to do things by myself, because
mhm.
somebody's not gonna always be there. So I think
Right.
there's two spectrums of it. It's like, allow people to
There's
help you,
uh,
but like, push yourself to figure
yeah.
out a way. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. And especially, the way things are now, and I think too for us, because myself and a lot of my friends that are, blind and legally visually impaired, we've learned, like, even with like technology, like I prefer to
Yes.
use accessible technology, because when it's just specifically geared for people with disabilities, they want to charge outrageous prices
Yes.
for something that can be done with my camera, like my phone camera, versus
Yeah.
having they want to charge you this extreme amount for this device
Yeah.
that's a magnifier.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Like with StreamYard, with recording, and I had to play around in there, like with JAWS, to figure out how it worked. I had to make mistakes. I had to not have audio, didn't work, record an hour of content and it not have audio, get
Oh God.
frustrated, walk away from the computer. So like it's a learning experience, but
Yeah.
it gives me another level of confidence too. So it's like, okay, if nobody is here, I'm able to do the show by myself. I know the
Yeah.
settings, so it's always two sides of every coin. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
get help if somebody's trying to help, but also push yourself to learn how to do those things. Cause yeah, I've been in a place where I'm being forced to do a lot of the work in a sense of research just
Mm-hmm.
in case, because if I travel, I don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm out of town or I'm in LA. I'm not doing no content. It doesn't work that
Right.
way.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Especially being in this industry, you have to be, I recorded stuff from my hotel.
Yes. Yes. Bring
Yeah.
the setup. I have to, I was talking to one of my editors and I was telling him, I was like, the certain mics are really expensive. I said, but I want to be able to get a mic that's expensive that I can have at my home studio. And when I travel, it's something that's good quality, but it's not
Hmm.
too bulky to where if I go, my setup still looks nice and
Yeah.
it's not too much though, because lugging all of that stuff is
Oh
a
my
lot.
gosh. Yes.
It is a lot, like lights and yeah.
Yeah, because like I even have like this tiny ring light, like that's fold up and I can carry with
Yes, I need to
versus
get
the one I have behind me, which is the big one that ain't going nowhere.
right. Like I'm not taking that down. My child's father asked me, he was like, well, because I'm here in Delaware right now, recording, as you know, recording music and stuff like that. And he's like, well, where are your lights? I was like, I'm not taking those lights from my house. Like they're huge. Like they will stay in my home studio.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So is there anything else that you would love to share that you think, somebody that may be interested in getting into the music industry or just entertainment industry in general, would
Um,
find beneficial as somebody with a disability or even not with a disability?
if there was anything I would let anybody know, it's just that anything that you want to get into, it has to come from a place of passion first, because you will not be paid for your passions at first. And
Oh yeah.
so you have to be consistent. I've always tell people consistency is king, sometimes over quality. Quality will come with experience, it will come with money as it relates to equipment that you can buy to upgrade it. But if you are consistent, those things will come. And you have to do your own research and you have to be a part of your career. A lot of times I can say right now I'm in the season of learning that being assertive and knowing what I'm worth does not make me rude or difficult to work with. I just know my worth and this is what I require. And in business, it's very important because when doors are open, you have to be able to be strong. You have to be well learned. And that comes with consistency, knowing what you worth. So if you consistent, you know that you put in so much work. When you get to that table, you'll be able to tell someone like, listen, this is what I'm worth. I put in X amount of time, dollars, and experience. So, it gives you leverage. So definitely do your research, but most importantly, don't do something for the money because you will not continue. You're going to quit.
I totally agree with that. I've spent thousands, so
Yeah,
I know.
you will quit.
It's like, but like you said, it has to have a point. You have to know that you're doing it for a reason.
Yeah,
Everything definitely should be something you're passionate about. Otherwise, you won't
absolutely.
care about the quality or the
Yeah,
because you get a lot. There's a lot of stuff out here that you're like, what in the world?
yeah, absolutely. So if
Awesome.
there's any take back, it's just, start from a place of passion and just be consistent if you love it. Because I'll say this has nothing to do with music before we go. So, on any journey, specifically my health journey, right? So when you're doing something and you're getting into eating the right way, because I am pescatarian and stuff, and I go to the gym often now. And so when you don't see numbers changing on the scale, just for example, it is very easy to want to revert back to the way it used to be, or the old habits you had. And so it's very hard. So consistency is really a mind thing. Be consistent. Like, it's difficult. Trust me, this morning I woke up and I was like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Why is it not changing? And so
Girl,
consistent.
and I,
Consistent.
I totally agree with you because I just started walking again. I think I've been doing it for almost a month. Some days it's like I don't want to, but it's like you feel so much better once you actually start doing
Yeah.
it. It's
Yes.
yeah, because that's what I'm going to do now after we get off of this. So
Yes,
go
ma'am.
take
I'm
my
about
walk.
to finish up some content and then
Yes, ma'am.
hit the gym.
Yeah. So just before we close out, I'd like you to get to share your socials again, where you can be found, where people can find you.
Yes, absolutely. So all social media platforms are I am blind beauty. There's no spaces or punctuation marks. So that is on Instagram, Twitter, as well as TikTok. For streaming platforms to listen to my music, that is just Blind Beauty. And of course, my YouTube channel is also Blind Beauty, or you can search I am Blind Beauty and you'll find me there.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today on Shantae's Corner, Dina. And as I just tell you guys always, let your words speak. Have a wonderful day.